Good. So, I mean, I think it's time. So, let's just go ahead. So, once again, thank you very much for being here, everybody. Thank you for being in this session with us in here. Today, we're going to be doing something on climate change, or climate adaptation to be a bit more precise. And there will be quite a bit that we're going to get done today. So, if you still have friends, cousins, enemies, whoever they are, that need to understand climate adaptation, please get them on the call. I have Gloria here with me. So Gloria, if you don't mind, can you share your LinkedIn profile in the chat room? So I have Gloria here with me. She's going to be taking us on this particular journey um, for climate adaptation. Also, there are many that we have a training class that will be coming up in a couple of weeks. We have a training class that will be coming up in a couple of weeks. I think they will put the flyer for the training class. They will share it in the chat room. But yes, we do have a training class that will be coming up in by next month, so to speak. So it'll be great. No, this month. What am I saying? It's this month. It's this month. It's sometime this month as it is. So it'll be great for people who are here to also come for the training class. If you don't mind, it'd be great if you can come for the training class. They will share the flyer for the training class in the chat room so that people can see it. And Gloria and my humble self will be in that training class working with you during that period. So it should be fun. It should be interesting as it is. It's climate adaptation. We're going to go through it in detail. That is why we had to wake Gloria up in New York, to get to be here with us. That's why we had to wake her up to get up a bed so that she can at least give everybody a taste of what it is that you'll be having at the end of the month when we're going to be having our actual training class on climate adaptation. So I welcome all of you to this particular session. So if we go into the chat room, everybody, and if we go into the chat room, what do we all understand by climate change or climate adaptation? Everybody, before quickly, because there's so much misconception. In fact, somebody was telling me that of all the problems in Africa, why should we be thinking of climate change or climate adaptation? That we have so many problems in Africa, that this kind of thing is meant to be for advanced countries who have made a lot of advancements in many areas of their lives. That why is it that uh, in Africa we're talking about this in itself? So yeah, so please, everybody in the chat room, tell me what are your thoughts. Okay, what exactly are your thoughts when it comes to um, climate change, climate adaptation? Are you also one of those people that believe that it's um, it's a problem for advanced countries, for Europe and America, that Africa, that we have food as our problem? When we start to go through all the SDGs, that we have big problems in Africa. That's what people tell me sometimes, Gloria, and I'm sure you'll talk about some of these things even as you get on with your session. So Gloria shared a profile in the chat room, everybody. So please, you can click on Gloria's profile. Please follow her, connect with her. She's the global climate change and an environmentalist. I dare say. I think she'll be in a great position to introduce herself appropriately. But if you click on a link or click on a profile, everybody in the chat room, you see who she is, and yeah, I mean she's doing great work in different parts of the world, and we feel very happy and excited to have her here with us. So, Gloria, thank you very much. We're very happy and we're excited to have you in our midst. I was asking in the chat room, everybody, it doesn't matter whether you work for A4S, you work for Training Heights, share with me what exactly what is your understanding of climate change? I mean, we need to know so that Gloria can tailor a conversation appropriately to this audience so that she can tailor a conversation. Everybody, it doesn't matter whether you work for us internally or you're external. I want to hear from everybody. I want to hear from everybody. So, right? Quickly, right? Everybody, everybody, right? Everybody, please. Yes. Samuel, thank you very much. Thank you. Um, Long time shifts. Wow. Okay. Caused by human activities. What about? I mean, you say we're the ones that cause it, but we need to eat, right? Gloria, I mean, how can we be talking about climate change when we're hungry? Somebody said that. Why are we thinking about the world that is to come or years down the line when we're not even sure we're going to survive? We might be dead before then. That Africa, we have poor health, we don't have enough food. I was with an economist yesterday, and the economist was saying this was at a conference, and the economist was saying that you know that in Africa, if we can solve, especially in a place like Nigeria, that if we can solve two things, food and electricity, that will be okay. That everything will be fine if we can just get ahead with those two things. So someone has written what it is, but my concern is, is this from an elitist perspective? Is this like something that belongs to very educated people? Femi Adari, thank you very much. Long term changes in the. All right, okay, good. Thank you very much. Why should we be concerned? Should we worry about things like this? Should we be concerned? Right? Faith says global warming and changing climate. Right. So, can people in the village, my grandmother in the village, can she be worried about climate change? When you tell her that, oh, she should not use charcoal or she should not use this, the one is going to tell you that, do you want me to go hungry or do you want me to collapse from lack of food? So these and many other things by our dear expert Gloria here will speak to us about today. Other people, tell me in the chat room, everybody, give me some quick thoughts. What are your thoughts? Everybody, tell me, what do you think climate change is? Okay? What do you think it is? What do you think this whole concept of climate change, climate adaptation, what does it mean? You also hear sometimes they talk about something called the net zero guidelines. What does that mean? This net zero guidelines, what does it mean, everybody? So, for everybody that is really looking to become some kind of climate change expert, that's why we brought Gloria for you. She'll speak for a couple of minutes, and then we'll bring this to a beautiful close. Right. So, thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. Thank you for taking the time. So, this is who we are. This is what we do, and yeah, so we hold monthly webinars around everything that you can see on my screen. We hold monthly webinars around everything you can clearly see on my screen. And so once again, it's great. So you can see on the QHSec. Of course, we can also put this. We can also put climate adaptation. We can either put it under environment or generally under sustainability because it's really an extension of the environment. Am I right? Gloria will tell us. I also have Diodono here. I have a couple of people who are all climate change enthusiasts that are, and some of them are experts, some of them are academicians around there. So everybody go into the chat room. Where do you think climate adaptation should be? Do you think we should put it under sustainability services or we should put it under quality, health, safety, and environment? Everybody, as an organization, will put it under QHSec, all right? That means as an extension of ISO 14001. Everybody, are you there? That means as an extension of 14001. But some people might disagree and say to us that maybe it should be under sustainability services. So share your thoughts with me in the chat room. That would be useful for us to know as an organization, right? So this is the standard that we're going to be looking at. This is the standard that we're going to be looking at. It's not a free standard. You are going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to buy the standard in itself. And it's like a three-in-one document. Are we all together? It's like a three-in-one document. It's got principles, it's got requirements, and it's got guidelines. Principles, requirements, and guidelines inside of the document in itself. Right? It's got principles, it's got requirements, and it's got guidelines inside of the document in itself. And I will not talk about it too much so that I can allow Gloria to talk about. But I've tried to summarize the entire standard on the page, everybody. This is the second time we're doing this. We did it last year, I believe. Either last year or in the year 2023, we did this same standard. We did it then, and we're doing it again because we do believe a lot of people missed out many portions of it. If you come for our training class, Muiwa and team, Bodun training nights, are you here? I will expect all of you to be here. Please, can you drop the flyer for the training that is happening at the end of this month in the chat room? All right. All right. So please, I mentioned it earlier. Please, can you drop it in the chat room? So if you come for the actual training, we're going to drill down into everything that is here. So you can see principles when it comes to climate change or adaptation and change. When it comes to pre-planning, when it comes to assessing, adapting, when it comes to some kind of an adaptation plan, and how do you implement this? How do you get your executives to be completely involved when it comes to this? What are some of the misconceptions when it comes to climate change? As I said, at the end of this month, this and many other things we'll be doing over a 4-day period in itself, over a 4-day period. This and many other portions of this standard we're going to be doing. But another very useful document, but this is a free document. So everybody, if you go online, can we do this in the next 1 minute? Everybody, can we do this in the next 1 minute? Just type ISO net zero guidelines. Everybody type ISO net zero guidelines. Can you hear me mute that person? I can hear some noise in the background. Hear me? Where's that coming from? All right. Net zero guidelines, as it says, this is a free document, and this is extremely useful. This is extremely useful and valuable. Okay, this is a free document, and it's extremely useful and valuable. So it would ask you to put your name, so to give you your own customized version of the standard. You can't really do 14090 without referring to using examples and content also from this. So in a sense, the training class that we're going to be having at the end of the month of this March, I think is the March the 24th, if I'm right, we're going to also be leaning on and making references to the net zero guidelines. And once again, you can't really do this work without these things. So pretty much that's it from me. I don't want to talk about this. I have a global expert on the call who will do justice to this line of work. I mean, because I'm an expert when it comes to ISO standards. I don't think in any way I can call myself an expert when it comes to climate change, but Gloria is indeed an expert when it comes to climate change. So everybody, you can go online, you can look at her profile, you can connect with her. I'm sure you can follow her I'm sure she'll be happy for you to do that. So you can see that she's an award-winning uh, personality when it comes to some of these things. So everybody, with a massive, massive round of applause, please welcome with me Gloria Bulus as it is. A round of applause. A round of applause, everybody. A round of applause. And welcome with me, Gloria Bulus. Gloria, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orlando, and good day to everyone. So, I'm really very privileged to, I mean, have this opportunity to speak. One thing I know that I am passionate about is the work around what I do, because I didn't find myself in the space by mistake. Aside my qualification, is something I am passionate about. So I tell people at times that I breathe this thing, and I sleep with it and I wake up with it, because it has become a global concern for us. And I'm happy that Mr. Orlando has. I'm sorry, I'll have some little bit of noise coming in on the background because of where I am. So I apologize for that. So I am happy he opened up the conversation, and by way of he has brought in quite a number of energizers. And so when I was preparing my slides, I thought of it, and there were some things I really would have loved to have done, putting on the slide. And I was like, oh my God, I really wish this was probably a physical meeting where we could pick our brains and make it really very practical for people to get to understand this thing better. But I'm happy with the responses I saw in the chat. When we were asked, should we be concerned? And someone said, yes, we should be concerned. And I'm happy that we all understand that we should be concerned, but I'm sure there are people that don't really understand why should we be concerned. Is it an illicit kind of discussion? The US is pulling out of the climate change treaty and every other thing. So why should we be concerned? And some people will say, oh, we contribute little to this climate change impact. Why should we bear the brunt of it? But of course, because of our vulnerability, if you're helpless, it hits you the most. And so I remember my mentor, the former Vice President of America, Al Gore, will say, uh, must we change? Because after he has given his presentations, he asks, must we change? Looking at the impacts happening, must we change? And the question is, yes, we have to change because we have the solution. Can we change? Yes, we have to change. Yes, we can change because we have the solution. And the last question is, will we change? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. Will we change? Will we change? And so, looking at the classification of climate change, it's so difficult to be able to classify that. Is it under sustainability or whatever? Is it under health? Look at it, the resultant impact of climate change is on health. So if you classify it under health, so what happens to sustainability, and what happens to food and security? So there's quite a lot
I've
of.
written something on the observation, ethics observation that we just concluded, right? So will it be an email?
Sorry, please. I think okay. So so those are questions we need to really. I wish it was really like a physical meeting where we will debate and we'll have people give justifications why it should be under security and sustainability and different other aspects like that. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury of time to do that. But it's all fine. I will just shoot into my presentation right away. But I don't know if Onyi can actually project my presentation from her end. I think it's a lot easier because I'm using my phone to join.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So only please project. You can also share with me so that yeah, in case we have an issue.
Okay.
Only, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So
I'm
that
not
helps.
here.
Yeah, that
All
makes
right.
it easy for me.
All right, that's fine. Thank you. So let me ask you one question up front, right? Once again,
Mhm.
right, you're doing this, you're researching, you're doing many things around this. I'm very focused on Africa, right? Do you really think that, we're struggling in Ghana? The economy is not great. The Ghanaian cedi to dollar in Nigeria, the economy is not great. The naira to the dollar, Cameroon, Africa, we're pretty much struggling. I was showing somebody the last time the GDP of Africa is equal to the GDP of California or something along those lines. Do you really think that there things that we're acting on climate change as of today? That's one. That are we making any steps? Just generally, you can tell me about that. But I also want to know: do you think we're going to make a significant progress in our movement over the next 5 or 10 years?
Before I proceed with my presentation, let me just respond. Are we making significant progress? Yes, I will say yes, because we're seeing that even so. Let me take a case study of Nigeria, where we all come from, or most of us. Let me not make assumption. Most of us come from, and so you see, we have been making some efforts in Nigeria. I would like to start from the citizens themselves. The non-profit organizations, the CSOs, are making efforts in terms of sensitization around climate change issues and other environmental issues. We're seeing them engage in sensitization. We're seeing our media people, our journalists report on issues of climate change. Initially, it wasn't like that before, but we're seeing stories come up. We're seeing NAN reporting, The Sun, we're seeing Environment News who are constantly reporting issues of environment from Nigeria. So that's to show you that there's progress. We're seeing states begin to adapt to climate change policies. They're having climate change policies. Some are making efforts to have a climate change law. Some are even having climate change desk officers or climate change directors. We're seeing programs come up to support on these issues. We're seeing Aquisal in Nigeria. We're seeing NewMap. We're seeing development partners come up. We're seeing the new UK governance and climate change program, working on governance, but through a climate change lens. We're seeing the UK pack. We're seeing quite a lot of programs are coming up from the UN, from the World Bank. These are programs that are being implemented in Nigeria. We're seeing the UN, particularly the UNDP, interested in programs around security and climate change, women security and climate change and all sorts. So we're seeing those deliberate efforts happening within, our own country. So yes, there is progress on it. And in the next 5 years, if we move according to this, with this kind of pace, we will be able to make significant progress. The political will is beginning to come up right now. We're beginning to see political will, but we can do better. But the only way we will not make significant progress in the next 5 years if we water down the spirit right now. And so there's a responsibility for you as a citizen, for you as a non-profit person, for you as an expert, for you, whatever your qualification, to join in holding the government accountable and calling on world leaders to be able to support in this whole climate change fight. It's our responsibility not to relent but continue. To do the little bit that we can. They say little waters makes an ocean. So let me just
Brilliant.
go quickly
Brilliant.
into
Thank you
my
very much. Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Please go ahead.
So let's go into my presentation. So by way of introduction, if you can see the slide on your screen, it's saying integrating climate adaptation into organizational strategy. So, by way of introduction, I'd like to say that climate change is one of the most pressing challenges we are facing today. The impacts are widespread, affecting our ecosystem, our economies, and our communities. We're seeing where the annual crop yield is beginning to take a different dimension. We're seeing how food is becoming expensive because of the annual crop yield is affected. We're seeing the inconsistency in annual rainfall. The rainfalls are not as they are before. We're seeing how Hamatan within Nigeria is no longer as it used to be before. We're experiencing extreme temperatures. The heat is just something entirely. So I mean, no doubt about it. The climate change is already here. We're seeing where we're losing species. I remember growing up as a little child in Kaduna, and I know where there's a street that has bats all over. I mean, as a child, you can't miss out on that. But unfortunately, these bats are no longer there. So, I mean, what is happening to them? I mean, that's a question for us to begin to wonder. We're seeing termites during the rainy season. We pick them up and then we roast them. We're seeing grasshoppers, butterflies, but we do not see them anymore. So that's to show you that something is really happening. It takes permit me to use the word, it takes a madman to say that nothing is happening within our climate change space. And so while mitigation efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions are crucial, adaptation is equally important. Adaptation involves adjusting our practices and strategies to minimize the adverse effects of climate change. So today in this presentation, we'll discuss how organizations can effectively incorporate adaptation strategies and the role of ISO 14090 2019, I mean, can be helpful in this entire process. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Next slide, Oinko. Or who's controlling it? Uh, might be easier if I do it myself. So, okay, just give me 1 second. Okay.
So let us look at the overview of, thank you so much. So let us look at the overview of climate change impacts, not just locally within our own country, but also worldwide. We will notice that, like I have said in my introduction, we're having ecosystems are being affected, where we're having biodiversity loss. We're having over 1 million species are at risk of extinction. I mean, due to habitat loss, climate change, and pollution. So, what do I mean by habitat loss? I mean, our forest resources are going down. We're seeing them being cut down for different purposes, for firewood and constructions and all sorts. And I mean, so it's affecting, those are the houses of our species. So you can imagine, if your house is being put down, where will you move to? Where will you stay? And so if you check online, you can see this is a report by which is online. You could see all of those things. World Bank is reporting it. IPBES 2019 has that report. We're seeing shift in habitats where many species are migrating towards higher altitudes and latitudes as temperature rises. So some of them can withstand some of the temperature, so they have to move to where it's most favorable for them to survive. We're seeing ocean acidification, where the ocean absorbs about 30% of carbon dioxide emissions, of which we are the ones, I mean, responsible for the emissions, which are also, I mean, these emissions are harmful to our aquatic lives and marine lives, and so it begins to, I mean, you see, most of these aquatic species are dying. And so, in terms of our economies, that's another loss that we experience as a result of the impact of climate change. We're experiencing economic loss, where you can actually see that climate change will cost us global economy about 2.3 trillion per year. I mean, by 2025. I mean, due to the damages and adaptation costs. So, I mean, climate change is very expensive to maintain. In disaster risk reduction, it's been said that it is best you put in money into mitigation, into adaptation, into prevention, than to put in money in terms of response when a disaster happens. And so, because it will cost you more, the damage has been done. So, why not, before the damage happens, you begin to put in measures to address this. This is a World Bank report that shows that 2.5 trillion per year. We're going to spend about 2.5 trillion per year by 2050 to be able to address the losses caused by climate change. We're seeing the impacts in terms of agriculture, whereby our crop yield is affected. Almost about a whole lot, and then farmers are losing their source of livelihoods, particularly the smallholder farmers. We're seeing damage into infrastructure due to extreme weather's floods are affecting our infrastructures, affecting our roads, and so the cost of repairs is actually on the high side. In terms of communities, due to high rise in temperatures and floods and all sorts, we're seeing the birth of um, heat related illnesses, respiratory illnesses due to air quality degradation. Even the floods actually even give birth to other diseases. We're seeing all sorts of health risks affecting our communities as a result of climate change impacts. And no doubt about it, we saw the way COVID-19 came and we couldn't contain COVID-19. So come to think of it, when we have a pandemic come up as a result of probably the melt, because it's been said that scientists have said as the glaciers are melting, it is giving birth to new diseases, and so there's the likelihood of having another pandemic. So, and in terms of response, we're very poor, particularly even us in Nigeria, the global south. We're not really ready for it. The world was not ready, and we could see how COVID-19 came and swallowed a lot of people, caused a lot of damage to us. And so, in terms of displacement, we're seeing that um, people are beginning to are being displaced. We have seen IDP camps as a result of floods all over the world, all over Nigeria. We have seen that happen in Bayelsa, in Borno, and some other states, Kaduna, and some other states where people are being displaced as a result of floods. And also, it's World Bank said by 2050, an estimated of 143 million people will be displaced by climate-related, factors, because of the rise in sea level rise and also extreme temperatures. And wow, that's quite scary. About 143 million people will be displaced globally. So come to think of it, what happens to them? What happens to the children? What happens to the women? What happens to the sick? What happens to the elderly? It's a thing of concern, and that's why it's very important that we are worried about the impacts of climate change. And then in terms of food and security, everybody needs food and water security. Everybody needs food and water to survive. And so by the time we begin to experience inconsistency in annual rainfall, there's a change in precipitation pattern. This threatens water availability and also food production. And so this exacerbates hunger and malnutrition. We're seeing issues of malnutrition. I know some states in Nigeria have gone ahead to have a policy on malnutrition. I know the UNICEF is supporting on that, and that's to show you that malnutrition is becoming a global issue. So the impacts of climate change is already being felt, and that necessitates immediate action to mitigate and adapt to these changes. But of course, in situations where we cannot mitigate, adaptation is very important. And that's why this presentation today is dwelling more on adaptation. How can we adapt to the changing climate? How can we adapt to this impact? How can we survive? How can we build our resilience? When these impacts come all glary on us, all hitting hard on us. Already it is hitting hard on us. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so I just want us to have an overview of how the temperatures have been over the years. If you look at this graphic presentation, and so the scientists have said that 2024 was the planet's warmest year in recorded in history. And so we have seen the trend. If you look at the trend, you can see that as it is going up, the temperatures. And so every one of us can actually tell, because we're in the world. Most of us are in Nigeria, and we can actually tell that yes, there was something wrong. I used to think 2016 was a hothead. I probably also think that 2019 was a hothead, but wow, 2024, I could actually say that there's something wrong. I know that there was something wrong. I might not have the measurement because I am not a scientist, but I know that something is wrong. Something went wrong. And of course, all of us can actually tell that something went wrong. I've been hearing people screaming. Someone put on her status that please have a few days ago that please how much is ACO? I need to buy an AC. That's to show you that the temperatures are going up already. And come to think of it, will 2025 be hotter than 2024? Will it be hotter than 2019 or 2016? So I really don't know what will happen. But by the end of the year, probably we'll converge again and do an assessment. So I leave us up to be able to observe on what is happening and be able to tell, I mean, if it has changed, if there's a significant change or not. Next slide, please. So let us look at what the ISO 14090 2021 is all about. So if you look at it, you will see that it's all about an international standard. I'm happy the ISO expert is here, and if I'm wrong, I will be corrected. So thank you very much that I have backup already. So, I mean, so it's an international standard, specifically designed to guide organizations in adapting to climate change. So it's all about climate change adaptation, where the ISO 14090 provides like a framework for assessing and managing climate risks. I mean, this helps organizations develop strategies that enhance their resilience. So it's all about how do we enhance our resilience? How do we develop strategies that will enhance our resilience to climate change? So, but we must know that this standard is a part of the ISO 14000 family. I mean, which has a focus on environmental management, and it emphasizes the need for a systematic approach to climate change adaptation. But I'd like us to also look at what the ISO 1400 is all about. I mean, so that we could, be on the same page. Next slide, please. Okay. So the ISO 14000 is a family of international standards. So the ISO, if we look at it, just means international organization standards. So it focused on effective environmental management system. We need to have a system on ground that works for us. We need to have a system that will help to guide us in terms of adaptation to climate change. And that's why the ISO came into being. And so it is designed by the International Organization for Standards. And so this standards helps organization improve their environmental performance, comply with regulations, and reduce the environmental impacts. And so, I mean, if there's no standard, it's usually said that if there's no law, I mean, the everybody becomes lawless, but there's a law. It guides us to say, okay, this is what to do and this is what not to do. So standards help us to know the level or the kind of the class of which we should be able to approach a thing. So it helps us to be able to measure it and say, okay, this is how it is supposed to be done, or to be able to, I mean, reduce our environmental impact, because we all in our daily lives we emit carbon as a result of our activities, whether by movement, by transportation, by even eating, and a lot of things that we do. So there's a need for us, and which contributes to the impacts we're experiencing to climate change, and also in turn it contributes to the impacts we're experiencing. So I mean, there's a need for us to be able to have these standards that will help us as organizations to be able to reduce our environmental impacts. So the ISO 1490, like I've said earlier, especially addresses the importance of adapting to climate change, providing a framework for organizations to assess and manage climate risks effectively. I've mentioned that in the other slide, and I'm mentioning it again so that we can understand the importance and the linkage between the ISO 1400 and the ISO 14090 2019. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So we also need to understand we're talking about the ISO 14090 2019. What's the significance of it? So the significance is simple. The significance lies in its ability to provide a structured approach for organizations to understand and respond to climate related risks. Like I have said earlier, I mean, in the course of my explanation of the ISO 14090. So this is just a significance. It just provides our ability to provide a structured approach for organizations to understand and respond to climate related risks. So by following these standards, organizations can enhance their resilience, ensure sustainability, and support long-term strategic planning. So there must be a long-term strategic planning in terms of response to climate related risks by organization. It also aligns with global sustainability goals. We all must have known about the SDGs, making it a vital tool for organizations aiming to strive in a changing climate. Next slide, please. So let us look at the alignment with the SDGs. So the ISO 14090 aligns with global sustainability goals. We all know we have the SDGs, which is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is 1 to 17. If you do not know much about the SDGs, I'd like to plead with you to check on the internet, to download the SDGs, or there's an app for SDGs to look at what is it. It has different goals, it has different targets. It guides us on what to do in terms of the response to the different issues we're facing globally. And so the SDGs is there to guide us also. So the ISO 14090 aligns with, the SDGs as well. So by integrating climate adaptation into these strategies, organizations can contribute to one, the SDG 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. Two, by enhancing urban resilience and sustainability. Then two, SDG 12, which is responsible consumption and production, promoting sustainable practices and reducing environmental footprint. So in terms of consumption and production, how do organizations that are into production produce their commodities? Is it environmentally friendly? And in terms of as well, how is our consumption sustainable? Or we just consume and consume and consume and consume, not minding its impacts on the environment. And so SDG 13, which is the Obonge, which is the all in all global, which is goal 13, global, it talks about global action. It talks about taking action to combat climate change and its impact. So the ISO 14090 contributes to three SDGs, which is sustainable SDG 11, 12, and 13. And overall, I will also add that it contributes to SDG 17, which is partnership with the goals. Next slide, please. Okay, so the key principles of the ISO 14090 2019. One is risk identification, assessment, and management. Here, organizations must identify and assess potential climate risks that could impact their operations. They must analyze their vulnerability. What are they vulnerable to? You understand? And when you understand your vulnerability, it helps you to know, how to tackle the situation. Yes, I'm vulnerable to this. So what do I do if I'm vulnerable to flood? I know that there's a high risk of flood. So what happens to me? And that's where you begin to build in, prepare for any flood, or begin to strengthen your adaptation strategies or implement your adaptation strategies. So secondly, the key principle, one of the second key principles is prioritize action. So you determine which risks, after you have identified the risks you're vulnerable to, you determine which risks needs immediate action and which can be addressed over time. There's some that need like immediate rapid response. There are some you can you can take your time and address them. There's also the response developer response strategy, which is to create tailored strategies. I mean, that addresses the vulnerability or the climate risks impact you are exposed to. So it helps you also when you develop a response strategies, it helps you to be able to know what to do when it hits at you. There's also it's very important that we have a stakeholders engagement within your organization, and even your clients are your stakeholders. I remember going to an organization or an engineering office, and they have the ISO certification. It's been implemented there, and I remember how, I mean, they had to put us through the guidelines to be able to understand that these are the safety measures and whatever. So we were stakeholders because visiting there, we're partners with them. And so I was wowed by that. I was wowed by that. And so there's also need for continuous improvement and learning. So organizations need to adapt a mindset of ongoing improvement. How can we do better? How can we learn for experience? How can we enhance our adaptation measures? So it's very important that we learn from our experiences and use that also. Most of our strategies should not be cast of stones, where we can always go back to them and also readjust as the issues emerges or as the issues changes. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're looking at how do we develop robust adaptation strategy. It's simple if we follow these guidelines. First, we must have clear objectives. We must define our adaptation goals. What do we want to achieve? And our adaptation goals must be smart. Are they measurable? Are they specific? Are they achievable? Are they relevant? Are they time bound? So they must be time bound. We must give ourselves time to say from so time to so time. This is our goals, and we must be able to achieve them. Are they relevant to the organizations or to the issues on ground? Can we achieve them? Having ambitious plans is good, but are they achievable? I mean, those are the questions. Can we measure them? Can we see the significant um, uh, uh, progress in terms of the goals that we adaptation goals that we have set aside? Secondly, we must explore multiple options. That's why I said our plans, our strategies must not be cast of stones. How can we consider various adaptation measures, including infrastructure improvement? Is it policy change? Is it community engagement initiatives? How can we explore multiple options that are effective and give us good results? I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in having a plan A, B, C, D, and they're putting them all together in one bowl. You can imagine when you go to buy food, say those that like amala like me, and then you say, I want orishirishi. I hear people say they like orishirishi. They want to put towel, bokoto, all those kind of roundabouts and everything in it. Put goat meat, put cow meat, put cow tail, put fish, put this. How do you want to kill yourself? But of course, you just want to, I mean, be healthy. You just want to enjoy yourself and have a good life. And that is why you want all the orishirishi in one plate. I mean, why not enjoy your money? So that is how it is in these strategies. Why not put in all so that you can have very effective and good results? And then lastly, incorporating flexibility. We must be flexible. I have said that already. Our strategies must not be cast of stones. We must ensure that our strategies can be adjusted as new information and climate data emerge. So we must work with data, we must work with information, we must be informed. So we must follow all what is trending online. We must see where are the scientists, the IPCC reports that are coming up, institutions are doing research, all sorts of research around climate change. We must be able to follow up with that so that we will be able, it will help us in terms of developing our strategies. Next slide, please. So let us look at steps for integrating climate change adaptation. First of all, we must be able to understand the risks. So we must begin with a comprehensive risk assessment by identifying what are the potential impacts of that risk. What are the risks and what are their potential impact? We must set objectives which are clear, measurable, adaptation objectives which are based on the risks identified. Then we must develop a strategy. That's where we need all heads on ground, all expertise on ground to formulate a detailed adaptation strategy that addresses those specific risks and objectives that we have put in place. Then the implementation, which is very key. It's one thing for us to have our strategies on paper, and it's another to be able to implement it. We have, it's just say, for example, in terms of government policies, we have quite a number of policies, but the implementation is zero or very weak. How can we be ensure that ours is different to ensure that this adaptation strategies are being implemented, ensuring that resources are allocated appropriately? Then also there is need for monitoring and review. We need to also track on the progress and see how effective are the strategies. Are they working? Are they not working? And then being able to make adjustments as needed. Then communication. We must be able to share the results of our adaptation efforts with stakeholders, with our partners. We must be transparent, and we must be able to collaborate with our partners. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. No, I think there's another slide before that. Sorry. So there's okay. Next slide, please. I think next slide, please. Okay. No, no, no. You've skipped. Can you go back one slide? Yes. So, but then also, I'd like us to look at how do we effectively assess climate change impacts. So, to effectively assess climate change impact, organization must one conduct vulnerability assessment. So it's very important that we conduct a vulnerability capacity assessment. That's a VCA. A vulnerability capability assessment helps us to know what we're vulnerable to, our capacity to be able to address what we're vulnerable to, and also, I mean, where to seek for help when it's beyond our capacity. So we must be able to do a VCA within um, on issues of climate change impact. And then also we need to engage stakeholders. We need to bring stakeholders together to hear their diverse perspectives and also data related to potential climate risks. Even within our organizations, our members of our staffs are very important in this decision making in terms of putting up strategies for adaptation. And then we must be able to utilize climate change, projections. There are quite a lot of climate models. There are projections that are being put in place, to be able to anticipate future conditions and impacts. How do we, these projections will help us to be able to strategize. How do we address, I mean, when those impacts are coming, while we sit down and we're waiting for them, how do we strategize for them? How do we get prepared? Next slide, please. So I'd like us to look at the tools and resources for implementation. First of all, there are tools that are put in place, tools and methodologies. We have a risk assessment tool. These tools are available for us like a climate risk dashboard or risky business that help identify and analyze climate risks. These are tools that we can check them up online, and then some of them are paid, some of them are free, but you need to look at the one that is affordable by you and your organization and most relevant based on the strategies you have on ground. Then there's also frameworks for stakeholder engagement. So it has to be a participatory approach where stakeholders are able to be able to bring in all their inputs together. So we must be able to engage stakeholders using frameworks like the Stakeholders Engagement Toolkit and the IAPA2 spectrum of public participation. So those are tools that are available. We can search them up online. We also have additional resources, the guidelines and standard, which is the ISO 14090/2019 documentation and guidelines for implementation will be helpful. I also am happy that My Oga mentioned the ISO Net Zero guidelines, which is another tool that will help us to be able to know what to do. I mean, how to respond or how to implement our strategies. Also, the online learning platforms like the Coursera and EDX also helps us to understand better on climate adaptation, and also case studies as well. Repositories are also very important, where we can search the UNFCCC or World Bank and other international organizations and see what they have put in place in terms of case studies, because we're not the only ones working around at addressing climate change. There are quite hundreds and millions of people working around um, climate change issues, adaptation issues. So it helps us to be able to learn from them. What are the best practices? How can it has it worked from them, and how can we implement on some of these strategies? I mean, for ourselves to be able to work for us. Next slide, please. Oh, so challenges in implementation. However, as beautiful as our strategies will look, there are also challenges. But of course, not everyone will face challenges, but the common challenges are funding limitations. So because many organizations are struggling to secure funding for climate change adaptation projects. So if you do not have that funding, no matter how beautiful your adaptation strategies are, you won't be able to implement on them. Lack of data. We have problems of data gap, particularly in Nigeria. And so we have insufficient data on climate change impacts of vulnerability. And so how do we effectively plan and make decisions when we do not have data? So that's another loophole. And resistance to change. Oh my God, that's another very big issue, where we have stakeholders and everyone doesn't want to, adapt to it, doesn't want to, is resisting change. We're seeing how people will tell you, oh, this is, the African context, we believe in God. Oh, there's nothing happening. Everything is from God. It's God that gives the rain, the sunshine, the moon, and everything. Yes, well, we acknowledge that we're all religious people. Yes, we love God. We're from somewhere, and except if you're an atheist, and even atheists believe there is a source somewhere. So we know that these are gifts that are beautifully and freely given to us. But then we just have that assumption that we do not want to change. We do not want to protect those God given natural resources that God has given us. So we don't want to change. Some of us are just lazy. Some of us just don't want to change at all and do not see the need to change. So, those are some of the challenges. The complexity of climate risks. We're having a multi-phase nature of climate risks, which makes it really very difficult to develop comprehensive adaptation plans. Today we're having climate change. We're having floods, where we're battling with floods. Tomorrow we're having extreme temperatures. The rainfalls pattern is just. Someone once told me that he doesn't, some years back, that he doesn't understand what is happening with this weather. The weather seems confused. And I was like, yeah, that's true. The weather seems confused because you don't know if it's cold this moment or if it is hot or whatever. So while you're putting strategies for high temperatures, and then whoop, the temperature has changed, you're experiencing something else. So the issues of the climate change risks are complex, and so it gives us a gap in terms of implementing our adaptation strategies. So let us look at real world examples, case studies of some um, adaptation strategies that have been put in place. So, say for example, the city of Rotterdam has implemented an urban water management strategy to enhance its floods resilience. That's within, it is an organization that is doing that. In the city of Rotterdam. So they are doing this by integrating green infrastructure such as parks, green roofs. They have successfully also managed storm waters and reduce flooding risk. So you can see that they are experiencing floods, and they have also found a solution to that, and they are putting those measures on ground. And so this proactive measures showcase the effectiveness of adaptation strategies in urban settings. So, you can see that. You can Google more on that online. It's online. You could find more about what the city of Rotterdam is doing. Next slide, please. So let's look at the second case study, which is the Netherlands Delta Works adaptation strategy. So the Delta Works is they have series of dams, locks, and also some such barriers designed to protect the Netherlands from flooding. So that means Netherlands is susceptible to it's prone to flooding. And so they have identified those measures. And so after they had experienced the catastrophic North Sea flood in 1953, the Dutch government invested heavily in this complex system to enhance flood resilience. So if you look at it, this is 1953. Most of us were not born there, but then they are putting these measures that it is still working because
The slide is
references
not
are
showing.
being made.
The slide is not showing.
So references is being made. So the outcome is the Delta works are successfully projected. Millions of people as a projected.
The slide is not being moved.
Sorry, are
Somebody
you
should
sure
move the
it's not
slide,
from your
please.
side? Can any other? It might be from your side, sir. Is there any other person that can
I'm
see the
using the
slide?
same slide as well. I'm using the
We
same
can
I
see
slide
can
the
as
see the
slide.
well.
slide.
So
I can see the slide
I
it's
can
from
it's
see
here.
your
your slide,
connection,
sir.
sir. It's because I'm controlling it and she's in a different location and she can see it. So it's a connection on your side, sir. Please go ahead, Gloria.
I'm actually using
I
the
can
same
see
slide
it.
that's being projected to speak. So
Yeah.
okay, so the Delta works have successfully projected, millions of people and vast areas of land from flooding have protected. I mean, millions of people and vast areas of flood from flooding. Demonstrating the effectiveness of large-scale infrastructure adaptation. So this project not only enhances safety but also supports the economy by protecting critical infrastructure and agricultural areas. Next slide, please. So let's look at the third case study, and which is our last case study, which is the city of New York. And this is exactly where I am today, speaking from the city of New York. And so, following the Hurricane Sandy in 2012, we must have heard Americans have a lot of Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane this, Hurricane that. And I wonder why they keep giving those hurricanes the names of ladies. Are we hurricane? I mean, that's a topic for another day. Why do we have ladies named after some of these hurricanes? So we have Hurricane Sandy in 2012 in the New York City. And so the New York City had to launch the One New York, One NYC initiative, which includes a comprehensive climate resilience strategy. And so it involves the protection of the coastal regions, improving stormwater management, and investing in green infrastructure such as parks and permeable pavements that can help to contain some of these floods when they come. So the outcome in the city efforts, it has led to increased um, resilience against future storms, reducing floods in vulnerable neighborhoods, and improved overall urban vulnerability. The initiative emphasizes community involvement and aims to create a more sustainable and urban environment. So, I mean, we all know there are quite a lot of waters around here in the New York. And so, if these measures are not put in place, maybe the whole of New York would have been submerged. Next slide, please.
Right.
Let us look at the case studies, key takeaways and summaries. So one of the key findings you will see is that the city of the Rotterdam urban water management, has successfully integrated green infrastructure to enhance flood resilience. So the key word is the green. The magic word or the magic strategy is green infrastructure. And so the Netherlands Delta Works also has demonstrated effectiveness of large-scale infrastructure adaptation in protecting against flood. So you can see against flooding. So it's about large-scale infrastructure adaptation. Then the New York City One NYC initiative focus on community involvement and comprehensive strategy to improve urban resilience. So there's also the community involvement. I mean, it's been said there's no solution for us without us. So there's community involvement and comprehensive strategy. And so, sorry, I edited on the slide instead of um, lessons learned. I put in the key takeaways. So the key takeaways is for us to know is the stakeholders engagement is crucial. I've emphasized on that, which makes it more having more effective adaptation strategies where all stakeholders come on board to provide their inputs. Sorry.
Hey, please take a minute. Please take a minute. It's fine.
Okay. Um, okay, and then also we have flexibility in approach. The approach are flexible to accommodate new information and changing conditions. The approach is not cast on stones like some of us do, and some bosses or some people will say, no, this is it, this is how it's been done. We cannot change that. But of course, the strategies are changing, and a lot of things you know, are emerging. So the strategies are flexible, and then also there's a long-term vision. The vision is not short-term. It's not all about let us do it now. It's about yes, let's do it now, and then let's continue to do it again, and then see how we ensure that this doesn't happen again. Next slide, please. So let's look at the future trends in climate change adaptation. So when we are talking about climate change adaptation, the future trends, we're talking about nature-based solutions, NBS. We can't do this without nature-based solutions. Nature has blessed us with the gifts we need. In terms of flooding, we have the forest resources where we're using our trees to be able to control on flooding, where we're seeing how we're using and leveraging on our forest resources for climate resilience. I mean, nature-based solutions have proved to be very effective, and because it is backed up by indigenous knowledge, where we have our indigenous peoples. I mean, culture is not being wiped away. It has shown that it is very effective. So, in the heart of climate change now, it is nature-based solutions. We're having technology and innovations. We're having people bringing in innovations that will be wowed by. We're having a lot of innovations by young people. I should have added young people as well in terms of these are the emerging trends in climate change adaptation. We're seeing technology come into play, and it will continue. We're seeing community-driven approach whereby communities are involved to lead on adaptation efforts, ensuring that the solutions are tailored to specific needs and contents. We're seeing where communities are holding us accountable, are holding the government or the development partners or NGOs accountable. We're seeing how communities are a part of the solution. So the trend is community-driven approach right now, and we're seeing that work for us has proved to be effective because we don't live in the communities. When you take a solution to a particular community, you don't live, you might probably not live there, but you need the community buy-in to be able to make it sustainable. Next slide, please. Okay, so lessons learned from the case study. First of all, we have seen stakeholders engagement, which is very vital for successful adaptation strategies. We're seeing flexibility, that we must remain flexible, adapting our strategies as new information and challenges are rising, and then integrating into core practices where where we're integrating climate change considerations into organizational core business practices. Next slide, please. So let us look at practical guide for organizations. For them to begin the adaptation journey, you understand. So first, start small. We always hear people say pilot, pilot, pilot. You must test a strategy. You must test a solution. You must allow for experimentation. You must allow for learning. So we must test it first to see if it will work, or we need to go back to the drawing board. So we must start small. We must be able to pilot, engage stakeholders, all the relevant parties, your employees, your consumers, your customers, your community members in your adaptation process. And you must focus on data. Data is very important where we're making decisions based on data, based on evidence to ensure that the strategies are effective and targeted. So without data, is as good as we're just making empty noise. It is data that makes it more effective. It is data that gives it more credibility. Next slide, please. So let us look at how we can integrate practices into decision making. This adaptation practices into integration into decision making process. So to enhance resilience and sustainability, organizations to integrate adaptation practices into their decision making progress by one, embedding adaptation into governance in the entire governance processes. I mean, is it in terms of organization policy? Is it in governance structures? Is it in leadership priorities? We should be able to integrate. Embed adaptation into our governance. We must use data, using data-driven decision making. I've said much on data. I mean, it helps us to be able to make the right choices of investment and resource allocation that prioritize climate resilience, and then also fostering a culture of adaptation. I mean, it is very important that we promote awareness and training within our organizations to ensure that employees understand the importance of climate adaptation and their role in implementing these strategies. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, but of course, we will keep asking, what is the benefits of this iOS 14090 for organizations? I mean, it sounds very complicated or very uninterested about it. Why will organizations adapt to it? One, it helps us to be able to enhance our resilience. It helps build organization capacity to withstand climate-related risks and disruptions. First of all, secondly, improve risk management. It helps to provide a structured approach to identify, assess, and prioritize climate risks, leading to more informed decision making. So, alignment with global standards. I have mentioned the SDGs, which is the United Nations SDG, which helps also align into sustainability. They are all sustainability frameworks. Increase stakeholders' confidence. It helps us to be able to it demonstrates our commitment, you understand, to sustainability and climate action, whereby it helps also to enhance our organization's reputation amongst customers, investors, and also communities. I mean, that's all we want as organizations, to have increased stakeholders' confidence. Next slide, please. Next slide. It also helps us in terms of regulatory compliance, that organizations can meet evolving environmental regulations and standards. I mean, reducing legal and financial risks. It helps us to be able to save our losses in terms of financial losses and also legal risks. I mean, you risk taking. I mean, if anything happens in some countries, organizations are being sued for not meeting up with the environmental regulations and standards. I know Lagos have put some enforcement, some environmental standards, regulations. I don't know how effective it is. We have all of the bodies in the national that are saddled with the responsibility for environmental regulations and standards. So I mean, your organization can stand the risk of having litigation or so. But also, when you put it, it helps organizations to be able to meet up with those standards. So regulatory compliance, cost savings. It helps to identify vulnerabilities and implementing, adaptations that can lead to reduced costs associated with climate-related damages and operational disruptions. So we have also long-term strategic planning. It supports the development of long-term strategies that consider climate variability, ensuring sustainable growth and operational continuity. Then innovation and competitive advantage. I like that because it encourages innovative solutions and practices that can lead to a competitive edge in the market. Organizations wants to be at the head of any competition. The market is open for a lot of competition, so we want to be at the edge. But of course, we begin to ask, yeah, we know we have seen the benefits for organizations, but what kind of organizations can implement the ISO 14090 2013? So let us look at the kind of organizations. We have the private sector organizations, government agencies, both at local, regional, and national levels can adapt to ISO 14090/2019 to enhance public resilience and sustainability initiatives. We have the private sector, businesses in various industries, is it manufacturing, construction, services, different kinds of services can implement the climate adaptation strategies to mitigate risks. We have non-governmental organizations, focus of environmental issues, community development, disaster relief, disaster risk management, and all sorts can use the ISO 14090/2019 to strengthen their program and operational resilience. We also have educational institutions, university research institutions can implement the standards to manage climate risks within their campuses and promote sustainability education. Healthcare organizations, hospital, healthcare providers can adapt the standard to prepare for climate-related health impacts and enhance operational resilience. Agricultural enterprises, farmers, agricultural businesses can adapt to changing climate conditions and ensure food security. Tourism and hospitality sector as well can implement that to protect their assets and ensure sustainability, sustainable transport, tourism practices. We have the utility and water providers, and a whole lot can implement the ISO 14090/2019. So finally, I have come to the end of my presentation. So in conclusion, the ISO 14990/2019 offers a valuable framework valuable framework for organizations to integrate climate adaptation into their strategies. So proactive adaptation is essential for resilience and sustainability in a changing climate. I'd like to encourage all organizations to start the adaptation journey and embrace the opportunity it presents. So for those of us that are not head of organizations that are a part of this meeting, can you relate this, to your, heads of organizations, your board, and whoever is at the managerial level to be able to see how can we bring in the ISO 14090, looking at its benefits to organizations. I'm very sure the organizers of this event will actually be there to be able to provide any technical support that is needed. Mine is just I'm the apostle that I've been sent to deliver the message ahead of of the the Messiah that have the solution to be able to support in implementing of this iOS 14090/2019. There are also resources that are put in for further reading, which can also help in terms of to explore more around the ISO 14090/2019 and climate change adaptation. So we can look at the official website of the ISO website, the official ISO website for assessing the standard. We can look at publications and case studies from organizations focused on climate adaptation. We have online courses and webinars. I've mentioned that in the course of my presentations already. And thankfully, the organizers of this event are also there. I'm very sure to provide any technical assistance, in terms of addressing issues of any concerns we have around the ISO 14090/2019 or the ISO 140,000. So I have come to the end of my presentation, and thank you everyone for listening. I might just take a few questions if I'm permitted, and then I zoom off. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Gloria. A huge round of applause, everyone. That was interesting. That was enlightening. Is what I wanted to say. We call the expert, and the expert is delivered. So thank you very much for that. As it is, so yes, we will share the slides with you. If you have registered for this particular event, we will share the slides. It's completely packed. It's loaded as it is, and it provides a lot of value to everybody as it is. So yeah, so climate justice activist from Nigeria. Thank you very much, Clinton. It's nice to have you here. Now, so do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Somebody is asking me once again that Do you know? So somebody has asked me directly, Gloria, that do you know any organization in Nigeria, or or it could be a state, it could be in West Africa that is really implementing climate change, whether in line with the standard or otherwise. So that's one question you want to take in. You want to note so that you can answer. Are there local case studies, local organizations that are doing well from a um, uh, from a climate change and adaptation perspective? So that would be number one. Any other question from anybody else? Any other question? Okay. And then somebody's also chatting with me and saying that is there a recommended uh, carbon credits calculator? That is there? Do you have a recommended carbon credits calculator that you can refer us to? So that would be great. Clinton, please go ahead. Go ahead, and if you want to speak, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much
Yes.
for the opportunity. It was really a nice presentation from Gloria. It's just the comments. I really don't have. I mean, we're trying to learn all these standards, and I think the meeting you're proposing to have later in the month. I don't know if it's going to be an online virtual meeting or physical.
It's
Then
a training, it's a training class, and be virtual because we have people from Ghana and from Nigeria that are all want to be a part of that particular session. So it will be virtual.
okay,
Go ahead, sir.
thank you so much. Thank you, Gloria. And on a lighter note, Gloria, I was going through your LinkedIn and I saw you just had a chieftaincy title on climate.
Wow.
So
Wow.
maybe you can tell us a little about that too.
And
Thank you.
the alignment of that to climate change too, right?
Yes. So maybe I can go to my village and also tell them to give me a title.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. So, Gloria, please go ahead, and everybody, you can see my screen. You can take a screenshot. You can take the details from my screen. So, I think those are those questions, Gloria, quickly, so that we can bring this to a beautiful close in the next 2 minutes. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so case studies that I would like to make reference, local case studies are one. We can look at the Lagos Climate Adaptation Plan, which Lagos have implemented measures to address flooding and improve drainage systems and enhance urban resilience. I know about the plan, but I can't specifically say the locations within Lagos. And I know that they are also focused on sustainable transportation, energy efficiency, and green spaces. So I think day before yesterday, I was at the Nigerian consulate in New York, and while I was stepping out, they were watching. I think it was Arise or so, and I saw that Kaduna State has launched a sustainable transport system. I saw the vehicles, the buses were put on ground, and it was said that that's the second state after Lagos State. So you see, the BRT is another sustainable transportation, which we recommend. Well, instead of using individual cars, it's part of it's a way of reducing your carbon footprint as well. So I know that those that live in Lagos or know Lagos very well, Lagos has those buses. So I think I will also we're seeing even in the northern part of Nigeria, where farmers are adopting drought resilient crop varieties, improved irrigation techniques. I know Kano has that. I know there's a research institute for potato in Jos. I mean, so these are climate smart agriculture is another way of adaptation in terms of climate issues. We're seeing community-based adaptation projects are coming up, particularly in the Niger Delta around the mangrove restoration and sustainable fishing. I know that there's quite a lot happening. And even coming back to Lagos as well, we are seeing the Lekki Conservation, which is being managed by the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. It's another good case study of another adaptation strategy where they have put in, in terms of conservation of some of our forest resources and some of our animal species as well. We're seeing the Great Green World Initiative, which is another initiative that has been happening in terms of efforts to combat desertification in the Sahel region.
Okay.
We know, I think the target is to restore 100 million hectares of land and improve food security. We're seeing there's a Kenya smart agriculture. I don't know much about it. I know South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia are putting in measures. I know Rwanda has gone green and they're putting quite a number of initiatives. Colombia, quite a lot of countries that I can mention that have that. Then in terms of the carbon credit calculator, yes, there's quite a number of them. There's a carbon footprint limited calculator, which also helps, which can do the work. There's also the Cool Climate Network. There's also My Climate, which are all for carbon credit. They're all carbon credit calculators. I know there's a Carbon Trust, which is another carbon credit calculator, which helps of businesses, to help them to assess their emissions and identify reduction strategy. There's a Planetly also, which is also for businesses as well. So all of them are targeted towards businesses. There's the greenhouse gas protocol also as well. If you check some of the names, if you just check them online, or you could just Google online for climate recommended carbon credit calculator. That will be really helpful, and you explore. So I think by the time you try 1, 2, 3, 4, you know which one is most suitable for your use. Then I think that's about the 2 questions that have been asked, and I
Yeah,
think I've
that's it. That's it. Apart from your chieftaincy title or something like that. Mhm.
we could put that on the parking lot, but thank you very much for congratulating me. It's just I actually didn't understand why it was given to me until when I began to interact with people, and they actually showed that aside having an alignment with the international community, having an alignment with the grassroots also helps to boost my work and to show how connected I am with the grassroots. So I think it just shows that this is where I come from. I'm going back to my roots. I'm a local person, I'm a grassroots person. But additionally, some of these awards and titles and whatever come with a lot of responsibilities, like saying, hey, get up, there's no sleep for you. You have a lot to do, you have a lot to do. So I don't know. It's just saying we have added more responsibility, not for some people when they're giving titles, they celebrate. But for me, it just gives me a time of reflection to say, wow, eyes are on you, you have a lot to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for us. Simeon, we've come to the end of this. You can just drop your Simeon quickly. We've come to the end of this webinar. If you check in the chat room, you will see many things from us. You will follow us on Instagram. We do this every month. We're even doing something on decent work and economic growth with Lagos State in 2 weeks' time. So every month we gather like this, twice a month actually. I take that back. We gather twice like this twice a month. So you can follow us on all sorts of platforms, all sorts of they've dropped a lot of these things in the chat room. And we'll also send you the link for the foundation certificate in climate adaptation. You get it because you've attended this particular session. So we'll also put this on YouTube, so a lot of people can go back to it. So it's not just the slides, but you can also go back on YouTube to have a look at this whole thing. So once again, everybody, a huge round of applause for Gloria. Gloria, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you. And I'll put my yes, thank you. Help me really thank her, right? Everybody, a big thank you to her. She's seated in New York. In New York, I don't even know where New York is. I see it on TV and on Netflix or something. One day, I'll also be able to say I'm seated. I'm seated in New York. One day I'll be able to say that. Now I'm satisfied with saying I'm seated in Lagos, Abuja, in Accra, and in Nairobi, as it is. But thank you very much, Gloria. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time and your efforts in here. And to everybody, we look forward. If you've attended this, I'm sure you also have a discount. You have like a 10-20% discount even on that training that is going to be happening. And Gloria is going to be leading that training class on the 24th. So if you've attended, I put the flyer out before. I'll put it again in the chat room. I told everybody to take the details. I'll put it in the chat room. You can reach out to Victoria, reach out to any of the people, whether you're in Ghana. You can reach out to Abigail and Samuel, right? If you're in Ghana and if you're in Nigeria, you can reach out to Victoria or to Oyi. Any of those people will give you a discount because you've attended. Trading nights will give you a discount because you've attended this particular session as it is. So at least you get a 20% discount on the 4-day training for attending. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you all, and God bless. Look forward to seeing you in other sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you, and have a great weekend. Thank you very much once again, Gloria. We appreciate you, Dr. Eno,
My pleasure.
Onyekachi, Clinton, Simeon, Ane, Prosper, and every other person that has taken the time out to be here this afternoon. We appreciate you all. Thank you. All right, Gloria. Thank you very much, everyone.